Hi, this is Jamie Kimmett, and this is a little quick version of my story. So I'm from the west coast of Scotland, from a small town called Kilmarnock, and my dream was to be a professional football player. You guys call it soccer, I think. But when I was 16, my dad bought me a guitar, and I fell in love with writing songs. Now, I came from a loving family, but we didn't know God. We didn't have a Bible in the home. We didn't go to church. And so when I graduated music school, I put a couple songs on the internet and found myself invited to Los Angeles. And it was in Los Angeles where I started to get all sorts of opportunities in the pop world. I sang demo tracks for Michael Jackson's producers, and this was 2008, 2009, I think. But the funny thing was, everywhere I went, people were telling me about Jesus. And I'd literally be standing in Starbucks, and this woman looked me in the eyes and she just said, "Do you know Jesus?" And I said, "I'm just here for some hot chocolate," And it was like that for months, and it was like God was sending all these people to invite me to church, and I was saying, "Look, I'm not interested in religion. Christianity, it's not for me. I'm just here for the music." And one day I walked into I used to exercise back then, and so I walked into this LA Fitness it was, and got away from all these crazy Christian people telling me about Jesus, and checked in, and I opened this locker, and there was a book inside the locker, and it said on the front, "Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life," John 14 verse 6. And I looked up and I said, "God, are you real?" And I said, "God, I felt like I was on the Truman Show. I said, "God, if you're real, the next person that invites me to church, I'll go," thinking I've used up all my invitations, no one else is going to invite me. And sure enough, a couple of days later, friend of a friend, "Jamie, will you come to church on Sunday?" And so I just kind of went, "I guess." And my life changed that day. I walked into that church, and what I heard was from a book in the Bible called Genesis in chapter 3. And this man was explaining that emptiness, that brokenness, that sense of dissatisfaction that you feel is because of your sin. Your sin has separated you from God. And for the first time in my life, the word sin wasn't just a religious concept for religious people. It was a reality in my own life. And men from Scotland don't cry. I started to weep. I was crying. And in that moment, because I knew I didn't know God, and the man said, "But there's good news. God sent Jesus to die on the cross, and if you trust in him, you can be forgiven and you can know God." And that's what happened. That was 10 years ago, just over 10, 11 years ago. And so that's the first part of my story, how I came to faith and how I came to know Jesus. The second part is, how did I end up in Nashville and how did I end up doing Christian music? Well, a quick version of that is a week after coming to faith, I was offered a mainstream record deal, which had been my dream since I was 16, and I got the guitar. And I didn't know what to do. I said, "God, I don't know, is this your will? I don't know." And so I flew back to Scotland, and I'm Googling, from the airport, Christian churches in Scotland, because I didn't know if there was Christians in Scotland. And I show up at this church in Glasgow, and the woman that opens the door is my best friend today. She co-wrote Prize Worth Fighting For with me, and she managed me for the first 5 or 6 years of being a Christian. And anyway, that's an aside, but she said, "Look, I don't usually do this, but I feel like I want to have a Bible study with you." And she shared a Bible verse with me. She said, "Thou shalt not sacrifice your firstborn child to the gods of Molech." And so I said, "Look, I'm looking for some practical advice about what to do about this record deal, and you're sharing with me stuff about child sacrifice. Look, you seem like a nice person, but you're definitely crazy." And so I flew back out to Los Angeles. It was just kind of like whatever. And I'm sitting in this meeting, and God just shuts my mouth. And all the executives are around the table, and this guy looks at me and says, "Look, I don't know what your problem is, but there's people that would sacrifice their firstborn child for this opportunity." And in that moment, I remembered the words that Lorna had said to me. She said, "God always speaks through his word." And so God confirmed for me to turn that deal down. I turned the deal down. I flew back to Scotland, and it was 7 years later when God called me out to Nashville, and I had no contacts, no money, walked into an office and was offered a record deal to make Christian music. And it's just been such a blessing my passion is to share the gospel, is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. My passion is also to to write songs and to sing, and to see those two things come together is a dream and something that I love to do. And so I really appreciate you watching this video and supporting my music as well. So God bless you.